Okay, here's my wrapping a box tips. So, trusty sellotape, I like it on one of these dispensers so I can pull off a length of tape and using the sharp teeth on the edge, grab myself a short piece of tape, so that really does help. Here's my paper, box of chocolates in this case. I make the tags so as you cut them out of cardboard, leftover scraps from either Gray's boxes or any other packaging that I think looks quite smart. Ribbons, always collect ribbons from Christmas crackers, I've got plenty of those left over so far. Good pair of scissors and of course a hole punch to help make the hole in the card. So most of these things I don't need just straight away, so let's just get on. The main thing I'm going to do is of course get on with the wrapping. So it's all about getting the right length size paper to cut. So I don't need the whole sheet. Or you could of course roll it, so you can actually get a feeling for how much paper you need. You've obviously got to cover all the various sides and do your, when you're doing your wrapping, so you need to have enough paper for the side, the base, the next side, the top, and a little bit spare. So I could cut this lengthwise. I could also plan and decide how much I might need if I were to cut the paper with a different orientation. So I could, for example, check whether the paper is big enough for me to handle the roll and wrap this way. I could go 1, 2, 3, and enough for the side. So I actually know this sheet of paper, this size box, that actually, well, that length's enough. So actually, rather than waste the paper, all I need to do is make sure that the sides are covered, both sides, and I can do a simple long length scissor cut along the paper, roughly here, knowing confidently that I've got enough paper here to cover the box. Now obviously you want to have some good scissors. This is quite interesting paper, so it's quite a textured paper. If you've got very sharp scissors and you've got not such thin, thick, heavy gram paper, you can sometimes run your scissors along, so sometimes you can almost push your scissors along the paper and you get a straight line. This paper won't allow me to do that because it's quite textured paper. It's quite a luxury paper that I've bought this time to get this gilt reflective design. Obviously turn it over, I'm now wrapping the box. So I know it'll only fit one way, so I've got to wrap it along the long orientation. I like to have a decent amount on the side, and it really is a case of keeping it smooth, seeing how it goes, and I've got myself a nice little overlap there, which is perfect. Now I like to have a double fold, and what I mean by that, now I know the length is going to work, I will fold the paper so the edge that the opener receives is actually a nice folded piece of paper. So that just means you haven't got anything raggy, also saves you cutting, so that's another little tip. So I'm going to just roll that again, and this time I'm actually going to tape it in place. So again, keeping it reasonably central as I go. Of course I want it to be square. I know that this folded piece of paper here will go very neatly on top. I'm not going to make it too sharp an edge. Let's get my sellotape holding the paper in place, and I'm going to just run that along. So I know this is going to be the bottom of the box, so the presentation side of the box is going to be this side, so you've got no visible seams at all. Okay, so possibly I cut myself a little bit too much paper, so, and I have, because folding this inside I can see I've already got a crease, and the same is going to be the case on this side. No, in fact that side's perfectly the right size. So very, very close, but what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to trim and correct this. It's very easy to do, so I'm going to just slide the present inside this box, the box slightly along, so I've now got a much better fold, and I'm going to trim, let's say 1 inch, 3 centimeters off one length of the paper. I'm going to do this all the way around. I don't need to worry about unpeeling the sellotape. I'm just very quickly, again, none of these paper sides are going to be visible. So the only reason I'm doing a semi-neat job is so that at the very end, when all the paper's ripped open, it's not quite so obvious I've made a mistake. But this is another easy tip and a way of correcting spare paper. Now of course, expensive paper like this you don't want to waste, so measuring at the beginning, it's always the truth to the adage, measure twice, cut once, and I didn't, I measured once. So there we go, so a nice fold, and this time the paper stays within the shape of the box, and that makes it so much easier when you then do the other line. So all I'm now doing is letting the paper help me create the fold. So again, making sure I've got the down fold first, and that's now letting me create the corners. And again, all I need to do now is to fold these in, and again keeping the line of the paper at the very bottom. That corner really has helped me there. Now squares and rectangles, anything cuboid, cubic, etc. is always very easy to wrap, and I certainly encourage trying to make anything that you're wrapping a nice simple shape, because you certainly will get the best presentation out of that. So that's pretty much one end done. There's a little bit of tidying up to do. I'll show you what I mean by that in a minute. I'm doing the other end face up just to show you don't have to have it on the table if you like to actually look down and above onto your item that you're wrapping. Then you're absolutely able to. So now, okay, so this corner here, so what you can see here on the end is all these folds give you that nice luxurious thick paper feeling, and because I did that fold on the edge of the paper, you can just see the reflection of the sellotape through to the end, you get that similar kind of thick luxury fold. So you've got a very similar presentation to the box all around. It's not perfectly dead center, I don't think that matters too much. Again, length of tape just across there to hold those sides on. I'm going to look at the other side, not quite as neat. So I've got a little bulge here, so the fold didn't work quite as neat. And do I need to correct it? Is it that bad? No. Can I hide it? Yes. So going back on itself just a tiny bit, keeping the point the same. So you've now hidden it, it's now disappeared, so you can see there that I've actually hidden it back on itself. Fold that down, and you really cannot tell. So again, unless somebody's inspecting your wrapping after they open the package, you really cannot tell they haven't got a perfect point to that wrapping there. So again, sellotape on the corners just to hold it all down. I don't over wrap it, I don't want to over tape it because I want that to be opened, and although you can see it in the reflection of the light, it's not going to be distracting. It's quite a matte sellotape actually, and unless the light's catching it straight on, you really can almost not see it. So there's my wrapped package. Of course, I'm going to now want to do a nice card. Now I've decided to do something like apple of my eye or hot chili, and colour wise I quite like the chili papers. This is just a package outer for a box of Graze.com treats and snacks. I don't need a particularly big tag, but I want to make sure that it still looks like a chili, so I'm going to just pick a nice dark corner, and this really is a simple case of trim to whatever size you want. I can check that's square in a moment. If not, I can always adjust that. Let's just check. That's a little bit flanged, so actually I need to trim that again. But again, it does not need to be perfect. This is something that, again, people are not going to be holding this up to the light and a square edge and saying, is that a perfect rectangle? They're going to see that and see hot chili shapes. Very simple. So I've got myself a leather punch here. Now I've always used a leather punch because cutting through very thick card, it can be quite tough going. So I have it on quite a large millimetre circumference, so it's actually the largest I've got in here, which is a 4.5 mil. I'm going to decide which way up I want this tag to be. Obviously the way the chilies are, I want this to be the centre top, and you can choose whether you want to then have the hole in the centre or in a corner. I'm going for a centre. I'm going quite deep into the card, and obviously before you let go of the grip, so gripping it hard, make sure that the tag can actually move, because that guarantees you've got a perfect clear cut. As you can see there, I've got myself a very nice clean cut. Don't need that anymore. So this length there might be a little bit too long, but it's the length that came from a Christmas cracker. It's already been pre-cut, really nice. Simple case of threading this through, and I can then cut this to length depending on how long I want this. So obviously there's lots of ways of doing ribbons. I could do a small tie just down below the ribbon, just to give it to the, hold it to the tag, and then use this ribbon up high on the corner of the box. Or I could leave it loose, not secure to the tag as such, and do the knot or bow higher up the ribbon, so I can actually do it more like a traditional gift tag that you might buy in a packet where it's already pre-knotted. Just make sure I get both these tags through. This is where I'm going to no doubt catch myself out. There we go. Slide the knot up, so I'm not going to pull that taut until I'm happy with the height, and that's the kind of place I want it. And then you can of course use a bit of tape where I've got my thumb, and again on the corner. So all I need to do now is one more piece of tape, write my card, and I've got myself what I think is a pretty beautifully wrapped gift box of chocolates to give to somebody special. Hope you found this video useful. Please feel free to like, subscribe and comment.